Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you. Thanks for having, I guess it's a president forum. I should be on these things more often. So, um, just to introduce myself a little bit, Santos Salinas. I'm president for the second year here with my with the Rotary Club Early Risers in Kokomo, Indiana. And I think, Jennifer, what you wanted me to talk about was just kind of was some of the stuff that I'm doing with my club right now, the
Yes.
vision and stuff we laid out. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So I'll tell you a little bit about what my goal was. So when I became president, my goal was to modernize our club. So basically, try to bring us into the 21st century. So I guess this is the 21st century. Yeah. So just to try to bring us, yeah, to modern times. So a couple of things that we had to look at is we actually did a lot of the stuff that they recommend. So what we did was we actually sent out the surveys. So if you go to rotary.org, you can actually find in like becoming a vibrant club. You can search all those things. We sent out the surveys. And so one of the things that we found, and I'll show you all the presentation that I gave to the club a year and a half ago, or maybe a little more than that now, is one of the things we found is that what people enjoyed about our club was they enjoyed getting together, but there was really nothing else, right? Because we had one person that filled out that everything was awesome about our club, and then she didn't rejoin, right? She gave everything up perfect. So it's like, all right, there's some kind of a disconnect here. So how do we make sure that we start engaging people to show them that, really Rotary is more than just an organization. It's really made up of people that are passionate about things in the world or their community, and they see Rotary more as the tool to help get those things done. So that's what I wanted to set out for our club to be able to do. So we had to look at a couple of things. So one of those is that we were a club that paid for your meals up front. So already right there, it was already a large expense for a lot of people just to join. So that was a major issue. The other thing that we didn't have is we didn't really have a projects or specific things that we could really say this is what we did or create an identity. So we had to look at that. So basically, the way we started this process was, like I said, we sent out all the surveys. So and then I took all the results from the survey, and then what I did was I created a presentation to my club, and I'll try to share what that presentation looked like so you can kind of see it. So let me see if I can do that real quick. Okay. All right. Okay, so you should be able to see that, right? The presentation that I did, sort of. Okay, so I'm not going to put it in presentation mode. I'm just going to kind of have it here so you can see the slides. So basically what I did was again, you can see this is the 2019-2020 Rotary year. So basically we took a look at everything. So the first thing we did was just looked at, where we were today, right? So I just took a look at where our membership was, and it's right about there right now, about the same. So that's kind of, maintained. But just looked at all of our various things that we did, right? So the first thing that I would always suggest that you would do when you're starting with this is just look at what your club is actually doing well. So a lot of times we might tend to focus on the negative or think about these are things we have to do, like we have to do this or we should do this. What we always think about the things that we're not doing. So I would suggest to, if you're trying to become a more vibrant club, to stop thinking about the things that you should be doing, but look at the things first that you are doing right now. Right? So take a look at that. So that's what we did. So we looked at what we were doing that we thought was successful or that we were pretty good at. Okay. Let's see. So then we also looked at our due structure, like I mentioned. So part of the thing that we found too in the surveys is that our dues and what people pay to Rotary wasn't very transparent, right? So we want to take a look at what that looked like. All right. So basically, this kind of spelled it out for everybody on what we were having with our dues. Okay? And I would point out that we were having people give $100 a year to the foundation no matter what. Okay. So if we did that, that was still just about $3,000, and that's all that people gave. Okay. And I'm bringing it up for a reason, right? Just so you know, okay? So keep that in mind, right? That'll come up later in case you like those kind of things, right? So anyways, obviously this is more about a vision, right? So it was kind of setting that up, right? So this is what I wanted to do. So I really just looked at two goals. So a lot of times, and I think that's an issue when we're trying to create a more vibrant club. We think we got to try to do all these different things, right? So what we did was I said, okay, we only want to focus on two areas, right? We want to become more vibrant. We also want to try to increase our impact. And, I would actually say we've actually done that. So then what I've done from there is just, we then just looked at some various goals within that, right? So I broke it down in a couple of different areas. We want to have an impact on others. We wanted to have an impact on our community. We wanted to also try to have an impact on the world. So there's a couple of things that we've done, right? Mm-hmm. So this year, we actually did a really great job with the help of, our district governors from other districts, by not just trying to bring in as many people as we can, but trying to bring in the right people. So we had a really great member that was able to do a global grant that is going to be in the neighborhood of almost $70,000. So it's the largest thing that we took on, and it was done with partnerships not just from District 6560, but also from districts across the globe, or across the globe, but also across the country. So it's been a really amazing project, and it actually helped us in what we accomplished here just this past November. So same thing, we had our impact on the community. We started to work with Imagination Library now. So we found out that that's the project that we wanted to do. So even though we didn't necessarily work with a lot of these things, we did end up working and focusing on Rotary Reads and that program by giving grants to our communities with Imagination Library. And just impact on others, and I'll kind of cover that a little bit, but we continue to do Zoom meetings. We continue to see people that attend a social gathering we do once a month, which is probably one of the most fun thing that we do, and I'll describe that as well. But anyways, I hit a lot of those goals, right? So so anyways, I'll stop sharing that now, but basically that's the presentation that I gave, right? So I crafted that to show my club that, that I was serious, number one, that I was really wanting to do something impactful. And here's what happened. The year previous, I think we did, we gave $100 each, right? So everybody gave $100 each. Last year, unfortunately, giving was a little bit down. Part of that was me a little bit, just because the fact that I knew I had a vision for where I wanted the club to go, right? I knew I wanted to bring this up. But what I'm happy to say is that, well, we gave less than we normally would have the year prior, right? My first year as president. This year, I believe we're going to be over $5,000 in annual giving to the foundation. So, sorry, Chuck, but you're welcome, Joe, right? But anyways, right, it was seeing that vision. And so, now we're looking at, okay, I'm thinking to myself, talking to another member that could potentially become a major donor. So he's looking at increasing that, so we could get to $6,000. So we'll go from like $2,300 that we gave last year to giving almost $6,000. Now, not every member is giving just their $100, right? So what that means is that we found some people that were passionate about what the foundation does, and it increased those dollars. So anyways, I'm not sure if that's everything you wanted me to touch on, but there's a few key things that we're doing now as well. It does take a lot of cooperation. So if you are in a community as well that might have multiple clubs, here's one thing that we're doing, and we just had this meeting today. Our two clubs here in Kokomo are forming a joint website. It's a little more costly than if you just did something through DACDB, but DACDB is kind of old, it's tough to use. We're not really fans of it. But what's nice about what's nice is that what we're doing is a joint website. So what that means is if anybody's going to be looking up a project or something they're passionate about, or looking up about reading, well, what happens is they go to the Rotary website that is for Kokomo clubs, for Kokomo Rotary. Now they might see the things that the other club is doing, not my club, that is helping out at the rescue mission to give food, right? So it's kind of this landing page that shows, hey, you know what, we're Rotarians working together, right? Maybe my club doesn't fit into your schedule, but you're passionate about some of the things my club is doing. Now you join the noon club, and there's this collaborative effort. So, again, that's just us trying to make sure that we're bringing both of our clubs into the 21st century. We're doing it together. We're showing this people that we're a community-based organization. You can actually have the application. We don't do applications anymore, print them out and hand them to people. We email them. They fill out all the information, and it's done, right? We just have to accept them, and they got all the information in. So anyways, that was what I wanted to share with all of you.
That's awesome. Can you tell the group when your foundation chair joined Rotary?
She joined on July 4th of 2020.
And why
in a
did you guys?
pandemic.
Yeah, why did you guys decide to make her your foundation chair?
Because she actually, I'll tell you what, she actually Googled grants, and that's how she found out about Rotary. So she communicated us. We didn't even look for her, right? But that shows you why you got to create a good website. And like I said, we don't have that, but we're creating it right now because, that's the way people look for information now, right? Mm-hmm. So it started a while ago, right? We just couldn't get it done because the pandemic started, so we put a little bit of a pause on it. But yeah, we over the summer we saw, okay, we can do this. She did all the research. She filled out the application online. I talked to her on the 4th of July. We actually did a Zoom meeting with the club in Uganda on the 4th of July.
That's awesome.
So
now I have it on speaker view. I'm going to move it to gallery view. I just wanted to see if Jeff Lake and Bruce Watson were jumping up and down in celebration because everything that you've talked about that your club has done, now it took more than just 1 year, but you are doing exactly what we're trying to do with satellite clubs and member retention and membership growth. Bruce, Jeff, either one of you guys want to comment on what Santos had to share?
I think I popped in a little late for that part of the discussion. So
well, I recorded it, so you'll get to hear it later.
Okay.
But Jeff, do you have any comments?
No, I just compliment Santos for being creative, using the tools that we now have that we may not have always thought that we had in terms of how our clubs operate. And I love the idea of bringing clubs together. Mm-hmm. We've done that same thing in Indianapolis. We have a group of 6 clubs that work together. Now you can't do that in every city, but you can do it in some. And I love that idea. So congratulations.
And I should give kudos. Steve Leonard's on here, I think, as well. But he worked with Cheryl Maple a ton. I literally just told Cheryl, I said, Cheryl, talk to Steve Leonard and work with him. He has more answers than what I have, and they did it. Right? She joined July 4th. So it hasn't even been 6 months, and we already got this project underway. And she is also a Paul Harris Fellow. Mm-hmm. Became a Paul Harris Fellow in November. Mm-hmm. So great. She gave $1,000 contribution to the foundation.
She and I talked on the phone for about an hour, and she was amazed at the vehicle of Rotary. She was, why didn't I hear about this before? She was passionate about this project in Uganda. Steve, do you have anything you want to share on that?
I just want to let people know that this young lady really picked it up and ran with it, and I was happy to help her understand the foundation and how it works and all that kind of stuff. But for a small club in Kokomo to come up with in less than a year's time with her an $80,000 global grant to buy that ambulance and the materials and so forth, that's astounding. Mm-hmm. So,
how many global grants has your club done in the past, Santos?
I think we did one other global grant, maybe, and it was about a $6,000. Well, this would be our first global grant, really. You got to have a certain budget. Right. Yeah, so this is really our first one.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's an amazing thing. Our foundation does so much good work in the world, but also in our communities. And that I wanted Santos to be able to share that with you, club presidents, to realize that it's, some people will say, oh, those global grants are so hard to do. They're not if you're passionate about it and you've got people on this team and in this Zoom who would gladly help you fill out global grant information or answer any of your questions. So Joe, going on to the next item.
If
what
I
do you
could
wanna-
add just one last
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Mhm.
So, part of that, to get to that point, we had to free up some money from our members. So we did eliminate our breakfast automatic payments, and you just pay as you go. So I think that was pretty helpful to help people be able to increase some of their payments. So I would just tell you, if you're interested in this stuff, you got to start with a vision and, get buy-in from your club. And so like that presentation I showed you, that was about a year in the making before I actually presented that.
So you're saying that
Jennifer,
you
I'm
raised
sorry.
more money. You raised more money by getting rid of the mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we were transparent about the fees. So that was one thing people always wanted. So now we have it broken out on what people pay when they pay their dues. So they see exactly what every dollar goes to when they make the payment.
Great.
Santos, whether you realize it or not, you followed the roadmap that Bruce has been working on now for a couple of years.
Oh,
This is exactly
good.
it. And we're following really what works.
Yeah.
And then using some kind of a measuring tool to see how we're getting along, how we're accomplishing that. And it is the touch. People enjoy seeing the warm and fuzzy. What can they do to participate and be an actual party to the foundation or to the activity with a grant? So I commend
That's
you.
what I'd say too, is everything that we used, we used the Rotary tools.
Mhm.
So everything that I took from Rotary's website and used that. I mean, we made it our own to a certain extent, but really it was that entire framework that Rotary already has.
That's great.
Jennifer, I just want to say on a similar subject, this really brings up the marketing of Rotary. I think Santos, she said that she came to you because she had heard about Rotary and all the good things that Rotary does. So, I mean, I think we really have to seriously consider how we market ourselves so more people like her find us.
Well, it sounds like you're on the right path. Putting both clubs together on your website, beginning the groundwork on the basic level. That's outstanding. Great job.
Thank you for being willing to share that with us. Okay, Joe, we're ready for the next thing that you want to talk about.
Okay. Membership is near and dear to all of us. And I received a report not too long ago that our district was doing very well from the 1st of July till today. But I also received a little strategic plan that the district has put together on some of the larger clubs that are beginning to lose membership. And the majority of them are in the donut area around Indianapolis. Smaller clubs are losing 1 to 2 members. Larger clubs are losing double-digit members. And we're seeing this that we thought may occur becoming reality. What we're doing to counteract that, I have to commend Bruce and Jeff both. We're looking to see what works in our clubs itself and how we can gain perspective and growth within our clubs, as well as trying to build satellite clubs and another type of club, as we did with the Southport International Club. I think that's outstanding. We're holding our own with membership, but it's something we have to constantly beat the drum and address with everyone in our club, as well as membership and marketing our clubs in the communities. I wish I had the golden fleece. I had the answer to these issues, but it's all of us just working together, all of us trying to find a mechanism to draw interest, to show them what we're doing, not only in the community, but around the world. And it's proving itself to be that service above self orientation, what we can do to benefit others. What else would you like to know? Yes.
Joe, the Carmel Club is one of those larger clubs that is experiencing, a loss of membership. And Jeff and I had what I thought was a pretty good conversation with some of their leaders about a week ago, I guess, Jeff. And they are bringing the idea of a satellite club up to their board this, I think, Thursday evening. So we're going to see, they sounded, like they were anxious to maybe learn more and move ahead possibly with pursuing a satellite club in their community, because the community has grown substantially, and it's all grown to the west side of town, and there's no representation, no Rotary representation on that side of town. They're getting most of their members from the east side and the central part of Carmel. So we'll see how that goes. But and I've spoken again to the Richmond Club president, and am trying to interest her in the idea of a satellite club, even though they only currently have 4 members. And I told her, that could grow to 12 members very quickly if you pursued this project. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to keep after them.
Bruce, have you had some issues in Carmel with the membership of the club being somewhat negative on a spin-off satellite group?
Well, it had been mentioned there before, before this, and apparently there was, but they do have, a good leadership group there now who have some interest. So we'll see how the board responds to that.
Excellent. Excellent.
I think, Joe, what I've been hearing is once people hear what Jeff and Bruce have to say about satellite clubs, there seems to be a misperception that a satellite club is going to be a split from my club and you're going to reduce the size of my club and take my members away. But once the clubs have these gentlemen speak to them, then they understand, no, the satellite club is to grow your club and to grow Rotary in your community. And it's kind of like a light bulb goes off. So yeah, satellite clubs are a great way to grow Rotary.
That exact thing happened with David and Lafayette with their spinoff group. They had a couple of key Rotarians that wanted to spin it off. It wasn't viewed well, but they gained momentum immediately. And it is a growing group. Dave, they're up to 10, 11 at this point?
I think so. And we actually recruited, for that satellite club, recruited former Daybreak Rotarians that had to drop out for other reasons. And the satellite club was a much better fit.
Super.
Yeah, that was a great job, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's one thing that, that Bruce talks about is looking at your terminated members or your alumni as great people as, for prospecting these new clubs and asking them, why did they leave? What clubs that are on the line tonight, what have you done to engage members in this virtual world that's been successful, I guess I should say? Anybody have a comment on that?
Well, one of the things our club did, we have to do again for a technical reason, but we did, we had 7 of us that actually read books at the library, and our library has like this, sound room thing, and we recorded reading kids' books. Now, unfortunately, our library had a major hack and they lost all those files, so we have to redo it, but we all just scheduled our own time and we went there and then read and then were able to leave.
That's great.
Jennifer, I think the Downtown Club has learned that a very effective way to utilize Zoom is by the use of videos, because all of us get probably a little bit tired of just looking at 24 faces or however many are on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
And the use of a 2 or 3 minute video can be very impactful. We did that today at our holiday luncheon. It was 100% virtual, and we did videos about where the money goes from our local foundation, now not the Rotary Foundation, but our local foundation. And we ended up using those videos and really pulling at the heartstrings, and we raised $10,000 one day.
Wow.
Oh,
That's awesome. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, because of what I see on the Rotary, the district annual fund matching points program that is in my little wheelhouse that I get to work with. There are some clubs that right before the deadline of January 1st and July 1st, if they've got a member that is late in paying their dues, they'll terminate them on DACDB. And then once they pay, a month later, 6 weeks later, or 3 days later, then they'll reactivate them. And I wanted to let you know that when you terminate a member on DACDB, it rolls up to Rotary International or the foundation. And so every time you give $1 to the annual fund or Polio Plus or certain grants that are earmarked for this, the Rotary Foundation, the International Rotary Foundation, gives you 1 recognition point for every $1. Those recognition points are what we use when we do the matching points campaign. We go to our major donors and people who've given that have, usually we look at people that have at least 5,000 recognition points available, because you can't use them for yourself. They are for you to give to others. And we ask them if they would consider using their points that they've accumulated for a matching points campaign. So this last July, we had an individual who gave, and unfortunately his club had terminated him because he hadn't paid on time. Well, this person was a Paul Harris Fellow +8, which means he was almost a major donor. When that club terminated that individual, his record was then terminated in Rotary International. And when you pass away or when you're terminated, all of your recognition points are wiped out. So if you have a situation like that, I recommend you talk with Terry Harvey about the best way to record that person if you're trying to avoid being charged. It does damage to that person's record in DACDB. And the same thing when you have a member that's transferring into your club from another club, they have a Rotary ID number. So instead of giving them a new Rotary ID number, because it follows up to the foundation, that's how we keep track of their recognition levels. So if you think of your Rotary ID number kind of like a Social Security number, you want that number to stay with that individual regardless of what club they belong to. Steve, have you seen issues in the past with that? With the foundation and
yes, oh yes, the people join a new club, or they move, and so they come and join a new club, and they don't even think about the fact that they have a number or whatever. They might even be Paul Harris Fellows, but they don't think about it. And then somewhere down the line, they've given enough to almost be major donors, and they start thinking about it. And then we go do a little research and we find out, oh, this person has 2 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not too hard to get the foundation staff to combine the numbers, the records. Mm-hmm. So that can be done. But, there are certain, I think the downtown club is one that's pretty famous for canceling membership when people don't pay dues and then reestablishing their membership a month later. So, that needs to be looked at.
Well, and when that happens, I'm sure they're doing it for bookkeeping reasons, so they're not charged for that member's dues. But what that does irreparable damage to their recognition points on the foundation side. So that particular individual who had been terminated by his club, then they reactivated him when he paid his dues. According to Rotary International, he's still considered terminated because for whatever reason it hasn't, and that was like he was terminated a year and a half ago, but he's active on DACDB, but he's terminated on Rotary International. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's a thing that I ran across in my role. Okay, the next thing is the deadline for club officers. You need to have your club's officers in DACDB by January 1st. So if you do it in December, that makes it a lot easier. If you haven't had your club elections, I understand with the the virtual format, some clubs haven't had their club elections, but it is very important that you get those club officers in January 1st. And also, for instance, like my club, we have a treasurer, a secretary, a foundation chair that kind of repeat year after year. So if you could put them in as foundation chair and foundation chair elect, if you know that they're going to do it 2 years in a row, because when the district governor-elect is trying to get in touch with the people that are going to be on his team, he's going to send emails out to everyone who is an elect. And so if your treasurer is going to be treasurer-elect, then he can also get those emails from the district governor-elect. Joe, do you have anything you want to add to either of those two things before we go on to YouTube grant training?
I think it's important that we try to get as much detail as we can for the incoming governor, the governor-elect, by having the officers in line. I know, unfortunately, the assembly this year for all the training of the incoming governors is going to be virtual. They'll not have the opportunity for the elbow rub we've had in the past. But he for sure will want to contact all the officers that are coming in for the 21-22 year. So yes, if you can, get them in as soon as possible.
Okay, I do have a question. It came to me privately, but it has to do with satellite clubs. And the question is, do the satellite clubs meet at the same time as the main club and just remote in, or do they meet at a different time? Jeff, do you want to handle that question?
Sure, they meet at a different time and place, typically. The idea is, we've heard of a club who said, well, we have a group that meets after hours, and they're all members of our club, so they're sort of a satellite club. Well, they really aren't, because they're members of that club already. What we're trying to do is, just like in Lafayette Daybreak, what they did recently is they found out that there were people who wanted to meet at a different time and a different date and maybe a different due structure than what they were used to at Lafayette Daybreak. And so almost always, and really always, these satellite clubs are going to meet at a different time in a different place, and many times with a different due structure.
Okay. Joe, I'd like to share my screen that shows where our YouTube channel is. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Can you see my screen, or are you just seeing me? Okay. So on YouTube, if you just search District 6560, you're going to find several things available to you. But I want you to go where it's called, so here's the channel. And yes, please subscribe to it. District Training for Rotary Clubs. And so you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the videos that we've put out there for you to watch for district training. And they are, I noticed it says 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 1 of 3. So I'm not sure which one's supposed to be 3 of 3, but do watch all 4 of them. And Joe, would you like to make a comment on district grant training? You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm muted, yes. When you had the full screen up, there wasn't any way to unmute. This is a mechanism that we're having to use in lieu of the training that we normally have in the fall. And unfortunately, it has to be done by video. We can't do a face-to-face training. The only thing we've been telling clubs that we will roll this out and provide it not only to the presidents, the officers of the club, but some of the foundation chairs and treasurers of the club, excuse me, they need to watch this as well. It's very well done, and we have a couple of stars here in the audience right now that are participating in this training. So I would encourage all of the incoming officers to go through this, and then we can certify that they have one person from the club has achieved this, so that they can be involved with the grant process next spring.
Do I have any questions about this?
How are we going to determine if someone watched or not? Is there an attendance?
We had talked about a questionnaire of 2 or 3 slight questions at the end after 3 of 3. And I don't believe that's been done to date. I don't believe we have that so we can have certification. But it is important that we have that so that the grants chair next year has comfort knowing that you've watched this and know the process.
Of course, we can always hold them up to the four-way test. Did you watch this?
We'll be adding something, Santos, to this and it'll be a very simple questionnaire on 2 or 3 of the topics that were involved in the session of YouTube.
And yeah, I agree with that. I just want to make sure we don't miss it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So next on my agenda is, what are y'all doing for end of year celebrations? If you're doing anything, if you can let Ginger Scott know, she can let our district governor know. We've created a Google Calendar for Joe so that events populate his phone, because I know, you know, he's on the road a lot, and DACDB calendar is not something that you can really access from your phone. So we're trying to help him out by giving him that Google Calendar of events so he doesn't miss anything. And that also includes your links for Zoom, or if you're using Teams, or if you're using Google Meet, or whatever it is you're using for your club meetings. Joe would like to be a part of that.
We're chiming right in with what Santos mentioned earlier with DACDB. We are having issues. It is a problem from time to time that we're trying to overcome. That's the reason we're going to a Google Calendar. It's just difficult to work with for some reason. It's not user friendly.
Right. So those are the only things that I had written down, but this is an open forum for club presidents to be able to have access to district leaders and to our district governor. So this is your time to ask any questions that you might have.
Shu, I noticed you were smiling very big when we talked about clubs that are falling off at the end of the 4th quarter with membership and then regaining those members 1st quarter of the following year. You've got experience with that. You have any good answers for us?
Thank you for the question. I think what encourage those treasurers of those clubs to begin thinking about looking instead of waiting April and then getting into June when they start Xing people off who haven't paid. And so then they wait until here's a new year, July 1, hope you'll pay up, we'll put you back on the roll. And so if we could encourage treasurers of those particular clubs to really get serious about having every May and not wait to June in that particular quarter to tally everything up toward the end of the year. What's happening with that is that our district, because those people who are marked off and then they are put back on the roll, they aren't being paid, or they're not paying any dues that come forth to the district. So in talking quite a bit with our treasurer, Kim Branham, over a number of months, we found that we were losing quite a bit of money, even though we certainly want to keep those Rotarians active, involved, generous, and really providing service. So what I've tried to do is to talk with the treasurers of some of those clubs, encourage everybody to pay up back in April and May, and so that we don't lose them at the end of June and they get a big X.
To exemplify Shu's point, in our zone, there are 31 districts, and only 5 districts were showing a net gain in membership. Our district leads the pack with 71 new members as of July 1, from July 1 to October 31. And it's all because of this shrug at the end of the year and people cleaning their rolls. And it's historic in our district, unfortunately, as I talk to the membership district and zone people. But if we can do anything there to, as you mentioned, to talk with the treasurers, to talk with the club leadership, there has to be a different way to, because those members are true Rotarians. They want to be a part of the party, and yet they just haven't paid their dues.
Maybe we charge them a reconnect fee. The cable company does that. I'm kidding totally, by the way. But you know, it to me, it just doesn't feel very Rotarian. It seems like we're gaming the system when we do that, instead of telling the truth of who our true members are to avoid a fee. It just doesn't sit right with me.
If we could encourage those treasurers, and we know a few of the clubs that actually practice that, but to encourage those clubs to give those treasurers a little more shot of grace, you know, just hold steady. These people aren't going anywhere. Let's give them a little breather here, but don't mark them off.
Well, and like I said, you know, if you tell your treasurers about what that does to their foundation recognition points, it completely wipes them out. I mean, they could have 8,000 points. Once they're terminated, those points are taken away.
Well, if I can interject here for a minute too. So one thing that I learned when I was coming up with our dues process and what we should do, is because this happened to me when I joined Rotary 8 years ago. I joined in April, but they didn't submit me until July because of how the bill would have worked. And they're like, well, you know, we don't want to get that bill for the next couple of months, so we'll wait, right? Well, then when you actually realize that what it actually is the district looks at it once a year, but Rotary International looks at it twice a year. So what we've done now and is, since they actually do it just pro rata, we just charge that member when they join. If so they join in April now, they're going to pay that 3 months, right? That's what they pay to join initially. And then, you know, you would bill them again either in June, or ask them to say, hey, you know what, here's what it would be to join, so you get to join right away. So that's something I learned. In fact, I had to talk to multiple people when I was looking into this just to get the answer, because people didn't know for sure that that's how it worked. So anyways, it was actually really it was the district too. No one knew if the district just billed once or how they actually look at it. And it really is just once. There's no pro rata for the district. So it's only once a year on the district side. So once you kind of learn how the dues sort of work, and maybe that's just part of it, just education and trying to, you know, tell people clubs to, you know, bill that way. Right. So anyways.
I think you're right. I think it's education. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jennifer, you had an idea a while back when we were chatting about this, about slotting them into another category on DAC-DB where they're not really lost as a member, you know, even though honorary member seems like an odd place to put them, but maybe there's a way to do it that way so they're not taken off the books.
So there are different types of membership status through Rotary International and through DAC-DB. And what I've noticed is that when I do things for the annual fund, I can pull data on active members and I can pull data on honorary members. But if you have them listed as active pending, I don't see them. Or if you have them terminated, I don't see them on my foundation reports. So one of the things that Jeff and I were talking about, and especially during COVID, we had a couple of Rotarians that, you know, been very active on a district level and a club level, and, you know, they just felt like they couldn't afford the dues, and so they wanted to take a step back, and so they dropped out of Rotary. Well, you know, we could have made that person an honorary member, and then that way they're still a part of the club. They would still get email through P-mail because they're an honorary member, but there wouldn't be any dues or fees associated with that person. And some clubs charge whether you eat or not. Some clubs charge only if you eat. Some clubs don't have meals at all. But do some research on that honorary member type and see if that might be a way that you can kind of put them in purgatory until they can come back out.
And along with that, Jennifer, if you don't mind the comment, you also have a cap age, and they have been in Rotary that would add up to the age 85 or number 85, then they can go R85, and that puts them in a little bit different category as a club member.
How does that work with Rotary International billing if they're an R85? And where can
Still
people
have to
find this
like-
information out?
Yeah, you still pay the dues.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Jeff, I'll follow up to see if we can't find some kind of a passive membership with RI, because this is a bucket that needs attention. I'll follow up with this one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to say the Anderson Club does not do that. We've actually ended up paying international dues for members who weren't members anymore because we were slow in terminating them. But we are only terminating members when they actually are no longer members. We talk to them, we warn them, and when they fail to pay dues, tell us they don't want to be a member anymore, that's when we take them out.
Well, I like what Santos said that they did in Kokomo. They were very transparent about what the dues are, what the fees are, why we pay this amount of money. If you want to participate in every Rotarian every year, what that would cost if you want that added to your bill or not. I think it has a lot to do with transparency. A lot of times people just get a bill and they're like, what's all this for? And they don't know. So,
Yeah, I think every Rotarian every year ought to be voluntary.
yeah.
I mean, I certainly encourage it, but I still think it ought to be voluntary.
Yeah. I have
It
a
is
question.
now. That's
I
what I
have
was saying. It is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And like what they learned at Kokomo Early Risers is when they took away all the mandatory, they got so much more from their members. I have a question. Someone's asking me, what about LOA? And I don't know
Leave
what
of
that's.
absence.
Oh, a leave of absence.
Right.
Yeah. So if someone has
I
a
think you
leave
can do
of
that
absence.
for 6 months
Okay.
at a time.
Probably. These are all, terminology that's all new to me. So I don't know where people go to find that information. Do they need to ask Terry Harvey that? Is there a place they can research it on DACDB? Or is that a question that you just ask someone who's in leadership that knows about the types of memberships, what they mean?
We had a member go on a leave of absence through the end of the last club year, and then at the time that the leave of absence expires, then they automatically go back on normal membership.
Okay, that's good to know.
Ellie, you notified Terry Harvey of that also, didn't you? To take him off your club roll so she wouldn't assess you.
Well, we actually took them off the club rolls.
Okay.
During that period.
Good.
I'm not sure if we actually have that in writing with RI or our own district in terms of bylaws, but a number of clubs have practiced that with certain extenuating kind of circumstances that happen in a family, a sickness, a passing, where people have to be away from their home for a period of time, where there's been a leave of absence. And each club can determine that and make their own decision.
Okay. So on DACDB, under the district tab, in the district files icon, there are a couple of folders that I've placed in there. And one of them says something about link to Google Drive. That's my personal Google Drive, and I have things that are foundation specific in a folder there. I have club officer folders in there. I have social media memes and videos and a lot of different things for anyone who has access to DACTB to go in there and take a look at that information. There's also the Rotary citation that many of us are working on for our clubs. And we talked about having measurable outcomes of success for your club, and how do you know if you have had a good year as a president. So the Rotary citation is one way to do that. And it's this year very easy to get that Rotary citation for your club, because there are 13 things out of 25 that your club can do. And if one of those 13 happens to be membership growth, then the recommendation is that you pick 14 things, because at the final hour, if your membership drops by one, then you've lost the opportunity to get the Rotary citation for one person. So do a minimum of 13, and it's all out there on Rotary.org under, I think, Rotary Club Central. But I've got a link in DACTB where you can find that information to see how you're doing as a club, where you put your goals in. If you haven't done that yet, I'll help you do that, or your assistant governor can help you with that. I do have one other thing I wanted to show you. I don't know.
You are so good at talking without moving your mouth.
Who, me? Well, it might be your internet connection. So I want to share with you the Zone website. It's called RIZones30-31.org. This is the heart of America. We are a part of Zones 30 and 31. Here's one of our former past district governors, Mark Blade, here. But what I want to show you is under the events tab, there is a thing called Zone Webinars. And there are lots of Zone webinars out there. Here's the new one that's coming up tomorrow night: how to form a cause-based Rotary Club and why. That is a Zoom that you can attend, and over on this side you can get registered for these Zooms. But here's some that have been done in the past. So area of focus on community and economic development. You click on broadcast and it'll take you over to the Zone Vimeo page. And I do actually follow them. I don't know why it's showing that I don't. But over here you have, it's recorded. So anything that our zone does, and this is where we have international and zone level leaders discussing things, trustees and people that can speak very clearly about some of the issues that we deal with. They're all right in here, and I encourage you to take a look at some of those. And again, that's RIZones30-31.org. So are there other things you all want to share? It's 8:26. We got 4 minutes.
I have one thing. Our club this morning had a presentation by a fellow representing a company or an organization called Filter, F-I-L-T-E-R, of Hope. And it's a water project. And he actually is based here in Westfield. We just learned about him here recently. At any rate, they have a very affordable for clubs product that they provide to third world countries. And he explained it as the band of countries around the equator around the world, which is where a lot of the poor drinking water problems are in the world. And this little device will fit in the palm of your hand, literally, this filter. And it requires a bucket and the kit that they provide, which is a plastic tube, a connector to the bucket, a drill just a drill bit with a handle that will drill the hole to accept the bit or the connector and the filter. And that's pretty much it. And that whole process costs $40. And he demonstrated how effective this little device is by having a clean jar of water. And then he took a spoonful of manure and he mixed it into the water. And the water, of course, turned dark brown. He then ran that water through the filter into a glass, and it came out perfectly clean water. And he took the glass and drank it. And he said it's the same process that's used by water purification systems here in this country. It's just miniaturized. And it can service, and the filter, the interesting thing, the filter only needs to be cleaned once a month, once a year, but it needs to be backwashed. So you take the filter off and you run clean water that you've already purified back through the filter backwards. And it will take out all of the bacteria and the debris and whatever else, has accumulated in it over that time. And I think this is just an incredible little device that can, and it's given to the people that are going to use it for free. They're not charged for it. And the organization has been around. They're based in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I think that's Alabama. And if anybody's interested in that, I'd be happy to share the rest of the information, the organization's website and so forth. But it could be a very affordable way for a smaller club that didn't have the means to get a large global grant, for example, to try to get a district grant and still make a big impact in the communities where this thing is going to.
All right, so I have one other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. We had the Lafayette Club, the one that meets at noon, the bigger one. It used to meet at MCL, but now I'm trying to think where they meet. But anyway, they meet in West Lafayette, and they have a program that will help our clubs, and the Crawfordsville Club has already availed themselves to it. They have worked with Copper Moon Coffee Brewing Company, and they've developed premium blend coffees. They have K-Cups and they have ground coffee. It's called Founders 1905. Now, the logo is not exactly the right logo, but it doesn't say anything about Rotary. It says Founders 1905, and we know that we were founded in 1905. But it is a way that if you send people to the website, www.founders1905, the numbers 1905.com, proceeds from that sale, or if they do a coffee subscription, can come back to your club. And so we've signed up to be a part of that, and contact the Lafayette Club if you want more information. But if individuals go to that website and they pick the Crawfordsville Club, when they make their order, $3 of every bag of coffee and every box of K-Cups comes back to the Crawfordsville Rotary Club that we can use for our projects in Crawfordsville. So
Jennifer, the Lafayette president-elect, Rhonda, is with us tonight.
Oh, Rhonda, are you on? Can you talk a little bit more specific about that?
Sure.
I probably butchered the whole thing.
No, you were right. The only difference is on the K-Cups, it's $5 that you get back because they are a little bit more expensive. So
yes, $5. Okay, I'll get some more K-Cups.
So basically, all we need to have is the name, the club number, and the address of the club. And then we can assign them a URL. And then when they get that URL, then they can send that on to people, and people use that. And then they just pop in and make their order, and then the club gets the profit. So it's basically designed to be a hands-free, which is really great right now. And you don't have to manage any of the inventory. You don't have to do anything, to make these sales except send people the URL and let them make their own order. So it's just supposed to be very simple and something that hopefully a lot of people will want to take advantage of. And then we send out checks once a month, depending on how much earnings. If there's no earnings, obviously your club's not going to get a check, but we'll just send those out once a month to the clubs. And I'm able to answer any questions if you have them.
So one of the best things about it, guys, guess how much it costs for the Crawfordsville Club to be a partner with the Founders 1905 Lafayette Rotary Club fundraiser?
Nothing.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. So if your club is looking for a way to make passive income,
That's great.
the Lafayette Rotary Club has made a way for all of us to win-win all the way around.
Yeah.
David, did I see the mark of excellence on that bag?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it too much. It came today in the mail. What can I say? Making coffee tomorrow.
That's exciting. I mean, that's one of the things this virtual world has created opportunities for Rotary, and that's one of the ways, we're making a difference in our communities is through fundraisers like this. And Rhonda, I know it took a lot of effort on your club's time and effort, and we thoroughly appreciate everything that your club has done for all of the clubs.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was, it's been 2 years of work to get that done. And the website alone cost $5,000. So, I mean, we've got a lot invested in it, but our club is very excited about it. And they've been wonderful. I mean, we've had club members that have really poured into it, with various expertise areas that they could advise us on. And it's just been a really fabulous project for us to work on with a lot of enthusiasm. So, and we've been getting, just on our Instagram posts, we've been getting clubs from other states that have been inquiring about how they could participate. So
yeah,
it's pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda, I'll contact you later, but I'd like to include this in the newsletter and feature the coffee so we can let everyone know how to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to get the word out.
Great.
Well, Jennifer, potential money for the foundation and for grants and service locally. Wonder if Santos could give us just a paragraph, because I think that is so powerful from that Kokomo Club of moving from $2,000 to possibly $6,000 this year in giving to the foundation. Santos, could you give us a quick paragraph?
You mean for the newsletter, or do you want him to read?
No, just what was the motivation behind moving from 2,000 to 6,000? What was accomplished? What was the tack in the seat?
So what I would tell you, the number one thing is to find something you can be passionate about. So I think that's the key, is that, when we were having people give their $100 and just as part of the dues, there was no passion. So they just were giving $100. So I would try to find one thing. That's what we did. So I just tried to find one thing, and luckily it kind of came to us. So if you could find one thing and be like, this is what we could do well, this is what we could be passionate about, then that will help. Kind of like with the Lafayette Club and this coffee thing, right? Sounds like, they really rally around it. So if you can find one thing to be really passionate about, that really helps.
Well, I served on another nonprofit many years ago, and they had consultants come in and talk, and they said, until you pull on their heartstrings, meaning donors, you're never going to pull on those purse strings. And so the passion that Santos is talking about, and the passion that Rhonda was talking about, sometimes it's visual, sometimes it needs to be a video, like we heard earlier. The Indianapolis Club did all videos, and you get member engagement when you can really pull on those heartstrings to give them, as Simon Sinek always says, the big why. what is your why behind what you do? It's not just what you do, but why you do it. And if you communicate that effectively, then fundraising is not a problem and membership retention is not a problem. It's all in the why we do what we do, and it's serving our community and serving one another. Joe, do you have any final words?
I received some correspondence today from President Connect and Rotary Foundation Chair Rafi. And it deals with what we've seen in the last few days with the vaccination involvement of COVID-19. And I'd just like to share with you a few things that were stated. This was co-authored by both these gentlemen. Today, the single question we hear again and again as we traverse the virtual world is, are we getting involved with COVID-19 vaccinations? Considering the success and expertise we've gained in our polio eradication, the question is both natural and timely. The answer is yes. We will have an important role in the months ahead. This does not mean we will deviate in any way from our avowed commitment to eradicate polio, which remains our highest priority and will continue to be our only corporate program. Polio vaccinations and surveillance activities must continue unabated. We ask you to encourage your clubs to utilize Rotary's knowledge of vaccine safety, its efficiency based on our polio eradication expertise, to conduct the vaccination education and communication outreach in the communities. We wish to engage current polio eradication partners to support COVID-19 response activities, including vaccination, and to partner with local government agencies, corporations, and foundations to support Rotary activities at the county level. Help us combat the growing force of vaccine resistance and misinformation. Our advocacy in our communities is critical. We need to spread the message about the power that vaccines have to save lives. We do this for ourselves and future generations. We do this as a part of our obligation to support the world as it faces most significant challenges this generation. Hope that was very appropriate today.
Thank you. We have gone just slightly over. We are officially dismissed. If anyone wants to stay on and ask any other questions, I'll leave it open for that. But thank you all for joining us. We had between 16 and 18 people on tonight. I had some issue with email, not the P-mail through DAC-TV didn't go out to everybody. And the only reason why I know that is because the email that I sent out, I didn't receive myself. So I even sent it twice. So I'm glad we were able to get as many on as we did, especially with it being end of year kind of time. But thank you all for joining us tonight.
Excellent participation. Yes.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Well.
Thank you. Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. So Joe,
Yes.
you're getting automatically generated emails when a district grant is approved.
Correct.
So that's your source of information for the big check.
Okay. When does the money flow?
The money flows immediately after that.
Okay.
When that email goes to you and to the grants treasurer. And so she usually gets that, sometime during the week, and then Friday she sees Salim and he countersigns the checks.
Okay.
And they get mailed.
What I need to do then is contact Cindy and let me know when that happens, so I can follow the check and actually make a presentation. I want to do that for recognition in the community.
Well, I would suggest that when you see that email
Yes.
that goes to Cindy, that you contact the club president.
Okay.
Because the club president should be, if the club entered their information correctly in DAC-DB, the club president should be getting that email also.
Okay.
And so they're kind of primed. So if you call them and say, hey, it looks like there's going to be a check in the mail real soon. What can we do to celebrate?
Yeah, which unfortunately we can't do much today, but I would like to set the standard. Yeah,
Sure.
thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hey, Steve,
Yeah.
what's going on with that Winchester Global Grant?
I haven't heard anything about it. I know it was approved.
Okay, good.
They're
We-
still
we-
seeking partners, Kelly. If you'd like to partner, they're still seeking some partnerships.
We chipped in. We
Excellent.
chipped in already. I just wanted to know how
I
it was
met
going.
with them about 3 weeks ago. They're very excited about it.
Good, great.
Are you speaking of the solar panels?
Now, that was the dedication that I attended of the food bank,
Okay.
but they're working on an African agricultural education grant.
Okay. Well, that's nothing to do with district grants. Okay.
It's a global grant.
You know, the global
Okay.
grant.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question about the satellite clubs?
Sure.
So it really interests me, and it's actually the reason it interests me so much. I did a good buddy of mine and I went on a pheasant hunt just a couple weeks ago. And we were on our way back, and he was asking me what is Rotary, and we were talking about it. And he lives in Lebanon, but the issue is he works out of town, so he could never make it to our regular meetings. And it was sort of this light bulb moment where I'm sure there's a lot of other people in his similar situation that are great community members, would like to participate, but just simply cannot be in town during the middle of the day on Friday. So with that being said, though, if a club starts down the satellite path, which I'm not sure how our membership would feel about it, but I would like to bring it up. I guess I'm asking, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you have the club and then you start looking for people to go to the satellite meeting, or do you recruit X amount of members that would be able to attend the satellite meeting and then you launch it?
Jeff?
If I could comment on, I think basically the first thing is you need a champion or two. The Lafayette Daybreak Club is a good example. They had two, one current member of that Lafayette Daybreak Club and one former member. They both had a common interest in establishing a club separate from the Lafayette Daybreak Club. So you definitely need a champion, and then you need the buy-in from the host club, the president of that club. And what they did is when they had their first Zoom call-out meeting, the president of that club was on the call. So obviously he knew exactly what was going on, how it was going to work. He approved of it and so on. And then of course, you know, there's the whole cause-based satellite clubs, which you really haven't talked a lot about, but you know, there are too many, you can't even name them all. How many different kinds of clubs you can come up with. Could be a veterans club. There's a club for pets. I mean, it sounds a little crazy, but there's people who are starting now clubs that they read books together. I mean, it could be anything, but you've got to have a champion or two, and one of them has to be in that host club because they know about Rotary, and the other person that they were recruiting, and then maybe they're recruiting other people, they may not know all about Rotary. So you do need one person who really knows Rotary.
Okay,
Is
thank you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and I think
So
what was
Jeff, how
important-
many people do you think that does he need to have 8 in order to form a satellite club?
Yes, 8 people. Yes.
So does he do like pre-satellite meetings with the 3 people that are interested until they get to 8, or what does he do?
Yeah, you can. A lot of clubs do organizational meetings where they try to draw in more than just a few people, you know, as many as they can get, and describe, you know, what is Rotary? You know, why are we doing this? And, you know, if we do it, what are we going to be doing? What's going to be our project? What's going to be our mission, if you will? And so I would suggest you start out with as many as you can get. Now, if you only have 3 and those are the champions, and then they can go out and bring people in, you know, that would serve the same purpose. It may take a little longer. The Lafayette Daybreak Club started their club, the satellite club, in less than 4 months. So it can go pretty quickly.
And the satellite club they don't have to have all of their own projects and everything like that, we can work on that jointly. That's correct. They would just, it could be as simple as they would just meet at a different time or different location that's more convenient for their schedule. And then we would work on projects as a town, because Lebanon's not necessarily big enough to have two
Right.
clubs, two different projects going on. But it just, if they were meeting at a different time, and then we could do joint projects. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole idea is you're adding people to your club where you can do now, bigger projects. You have more people to work with as far as resources and maybe funding for, Rotary International or whatever it might be. But you're just adding people to your club. They just happen to meet someplace else, and usually at a different time. Now they can have their own too. There's nothing that says they can't. But the idea is the clubs work together, the host and the satellite.
Okay. What I anticipate from our membership is if we get the buy-in to get going that direction, is that at least initially some members would just go to both meetings every week to make sure that there was that smooth transition and cohesivity, I guess, between the two groups. Is that something that happens?
Well, certainly they can. Absolutely.
So Michael, has Lebanon Club had Jeff Lake in to talk about satellite clubs?
We have not.
Ah, well, you need to get him in there. They'll get excited about satellite clubs.
I'll bring Bruce with me.
Well, we're meeting virtually at least through the month of January. And I know that every week it's we're looking for programs. So if that's something that you'd be willing to do, we meet Fridays at noon. If I could get your email address, if you could send that to me, or
sure, then
I can communicate with you maybe one of these weeks after the first of the year. You could jump on with us.
No, that'd be ideal. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate your guys' time. I didn't mean to hijack the end of your meeting, but
it's not a hijack. That's what we're here for.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah. We're here
I have to ask, how's the Nance family? Everyone doing a little better?
Everybody's healthy now. The kids still can't go back to school till after the first of the year. I go back to work tomorrow for the first day. It's my first day back. So I'm still get really out of breath really easy, which is sort of odd. I mean, I feel like I was in pretty good shape going into this, but lose breath pretty easy now, and still no taste or smell. So almost 3 weeks of not being able to taste or smell has been kind of weird.
Wow. Especially going into the holidays, not being able to taste.
Right. That might be good for me. Okay, well, I'll leave you guys alone to finish up, but I appreciate you.
No, we're done. So, Michael, if you want your district governor to come in and talk to the Lebanon Club, I mean, he's willing to do that too.
He was our program just last week. Yep.
Oh, well, he's old news. You don't want him.
We touched on satellite clubs, but we didn't go in depth. So we need the experts.
Yeah. So like when you're doing these organizational meetings, Michael, if you've only got 3 or 4 people and it's not quite enough for the 8 for satellite, those 3 or 4 people, once you get to 8, those 8 people become members of the Lebanon Club, and then all of a sudden the Lebanon Club has a increase of 8. So until they get to 20, is that right, Jeff?
Yes.
So at 20 members in your satellite club, they can petition to become their own Rotary club, but not every satellite club does that. They like that status, but some want their autonomy. So it's a great way to grow Rotary.
Yeah, and I just think I actually asked the governor a little bit about this when he was on with us, but to me it just seems, especially with what we've experienced during COVID, but it seems like such a good way to grow the club. And again, my point was, I have a really good buddy that I think would be a great Rotarian, but he just doesn't work in town. And I'm sure there's in a town of 60,000, I'm sure there's 8 other people or 7 other people that are community members that would be good Rotarians that just can't be in town on Friday at noon. So And I think stressing to the club, and I can have this conversation with our membership committee and anybody that's got any objections, but I think stressing that it's not taking away Rotarians from our Friday meeting, it's adding Rotarians to a different day, I think is exciting, and it's something that they should be able to get behind. So,
Michael, you'll probably find too some lost members that had to leave because of work conflicts that you can regain.
That's a good point too.
Yeah, I think a good example, NACDB, they list a number of categories: active members, honorary members, but there's another little area, it's called satellite club members. So they actually are listed in there as satellite club members as part of your host club.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, thanks for staying on and asking your question. I did get a private message from Santos. That's what I laughed about earlier when someone asked about the Winchester Club. I wasn't laughing about that question. But Santos says, is it okay if I just tell everyone how to pronounce my name real quick? So apparently we all said it wrong. But he's not on now for us to have him tell us. Anyway. Well, we had a good meeting tonight, I think, guys.
Very good.
It's good to see our Floridians.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
thank you.
lucky.
Well,
All right.
once you start traveling again, come down and see us.
I might just sneak out,
Yeah,
get some warm weather.
we'll pick you up at the airport.
Okay. Well, our next President's Zoom will be in January the 19th. So we'll see you all then if we don't see you before.
Okay.
Great job, Jennifer.
All right.
Hey,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Happy
All right.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.